This is Jocko Podcast number 88 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
I went into a public house to get a pint of beer. The publican he up and says, "We serve no redcoats here." The girls behind the bar, they laughed and giggled fit to die. I outsed into the streets again, and to myself says I, "Oh, it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy go away." But it's thank you, Mr. Atkins, when the band begins to play. When the band begins to play, my boys, the band begins to play. Oh, it's thank you, Mr. Atkins, when the band begins to play. I went into a theater as sober as could be. They gave a drunk civilian room, but they hadn't none for me. They sent me to the gallery or round the music halls. But when it comes to fighting, Lord, they shove me in the stalls. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy wait outside. But it's special train for Atkins when the trooper's on the tide. The troop ship's on the tide, my boys, the troop ship's on the tide. Oh, it's special train for Atkins when the trooper's on the tide. Yes, making mocha uniforms that guard you while you sleep is cheaper than them uniforms, and they're starvation cheap. And hustling drunken soldiers when they're going large a bit is 5 times better business than parading in full kit. Then it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy how's your soul? But it's thin red line of arrows when the drums begin to roll. The drums begin to roll, my boys, the drums begin to roll. Oh, it's thin red line of arrows when the drums begin to roll. We aren't no thin red arrows, nor we aren't no blackguards too, but single men in barracks most remarkable like you. And if sometimes our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, why single men in barracks don't grow into plaster saints. While it's Tommy this and Tommy that and Tommy fall behind, but it's please walk in the front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. When there's trouble in the wind, my boys, there's trouble in the wind. Oh, it's please walk to the front, sir, when there's trouble in the wind. You talk of better food for us and schools and fires and all. We'll rate for extra rations if you treat us rational. Don't mess about the cookroom slops, but prove it to our face. The widow's uniform is not the soldier's man's disgrace. For it's Tommy this and Tommy that, and chuck him out, the brute. But it's savior of his country when the guns begin to shoot. And it's Tommy this and Tommy that and anything you please. And Tommy ain't a bloomin' fool. You bet that Tommy sees. And that is another poem from Kipling. It's actually one of my favorites from Kipling. And you can follow it and you can go back and read through it, look it up online, and it's explaining how, you know, the soldier doesn't get any respect during peacetime. But when it's time to fight, when the troop ship is on the tide, then it's Tommy, which is slang for the British soldier, then it's Tommy to the front of the line. But the point that I wanted to focus on is a line in the poem where it says, and if sometimes our conduct isn't all your fancy paints, why single men in barracks don't grow into plaster saints. And what that means is that soldiers and Marines and sailors and those men that go out into harm's way voluntarily, they're not always Boy Scouts. They're not going to be plaster saints. You know, plaster saint, like you have the little statue of a saint, of a little Christian saint. The soldiers are going to be a little rough around the edges. They might be a little bit rowdy. They might be a little bit brash. They might be a little bit drunk. They might be troublemakers. Now, they're not all like that, obviously. But some of them are. And guess what? Who else is going to go forward?
Yeah.
Who else is going to go put their life on the line? It's these guys. And by the way, when you are raised in a barracks, a single man in a barracks, you're going to find some trouble from time to time. Mm-hmm. And then once you take these young men and you put them into battle, once you subject them to fear and terror and death, can we assume now and expect them to act like saints? Can we somehow expect that their behavior is now going to transition to becoming beyond reproach in the way they carry themselves? I don't think that's a realistic outlook.